Welcome to the Applexus Expert Series. This is a series of educational sessions put on in conjunction between Applexus Technologies out of Seattle and our partner, SAP. We'll go ahead and begin the session right now. Today's session, if you'll click please, the August session of this series is entitled Secrets of Omnichannel Excellence. Next slide, please. Before the session actually begins, we want to make sure everyone understands that today's session is being recorded. It will be posted to our website for you and others to listen to in the future if you like. But as such, we've muted all phone lines to keep the background sound to a minimum. We encourage you to ask questions. You can ask questions by typing them into the question or chat panel in the system. We promise that all questions will be answered through this session. And the first question that almost always comes up is, yes, we will make a copy of all the slides available to all attendees. Next, please. As I mentioned, this is a series of educational sessions sponsored by both Applexus, a global technology systems integrator based in Seattle with offices in the Middle East, in India, and in the UK. And we are an SAP partner, and through our partnership, SAP is also sponsoring this series. Today's session topic, Omnichannel Excellence, focuses on the SAP product Hybris. Hybris is a platform for all e-commerce and omnicommerce related technologies. We thank SAP for their sponsorship and their support of today's session. Next. Our speakers today are Chris Couch and Sreekumar Hariharan. Chris has been involved in the retail and consumer products industries for over 25 years, having worked with companies like Coca-Cola, the Home Depot, and the PGA Superstore in the retail space, where he led their entire initial e-commerce effort. He's also spent several years at SAP managing the relationship and being the strategic technology advisor to some of their largest and most important retail and consumer product customers. Today, Chris is the Vice President and General Manager of the Applexus Cloud Solutions Group. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. And I want to thank Sreekumar for spending time with us today, too. And he's an enterprise solutions architect with extensive experience in supporting supply chains across geographies through technology and business transformation initiatives. He's had success with digital transformation projects in retail, consumer, and high-tech industries, building omni-channel solutions, retail planning, merchandise, sourcing, and marketing. Welcome, Sreekumar.
Thank you, Chris and Joe. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. The term omnichannel has been used quite loosely to represent different things based on the industry or the scope. So Chris, before we dive into the secrets, how would you define omnichannel in the context of this webinar?
Sure, thanks Sreekumar. So to level set us today on this topic, let's define what is our goal with the omnichannel experience. And that is that it's seamless, progressive, and holistic. Seamless across all customer interactions from the initial stages of the buyer's journey through website, mobile, and in-store, and through post-sale service. It's progressive in that we're accumulating data in a permission-based way throughout the life cycle. And it's holistic in that we are capturing across all the touch points. The omni-channel strategy shifts us from a focus on customer transactions to the entire customer journey.
Thanks, Chris. Why don't we get started with our first secret here? One of the keys is real-time access to all the data. Can you talk us through what this means for a great omni-channel experience?
Sure. So there are really two aspects to real-time access to data that I like to think about. One is, do we have it available at the place and time of our interaction with our customer? And then the second has to do with the freshness of the data. Is the data current and up to the minute? Let's look at two key areas of information that are important. One is the 360-degree view of the customer. So what we're targeting here is permission-based, rich customer interaction information, things like interests, wish lists, preferences, and purchases to enable a curated purchase experience and an informed service experience. Secondly, global inventory availability is also key. Inventory availability by location, which enables the ability to meet the needs of our customer from their most convenient point of purchase. In terms of access, our goal is to have empowered sales associates that have fully mobile access to all this information so they can be where the customer is and provide that curation in the most convenient setting for the customer, whether that be in a location within the store footprint or even the customer's home. Enabling the real-time access requires an IT landscape that is unified. We see customers evaluating the major ERP platform providers, looking for that digital core that can bring all of this together seamlessly across point of sale, ERP, e-commerce, CRM, and marketing, bringing together the systems of engagement and systems of record to provide that real-time and mobile access. And ultimately getting to a customer self-service model, which then places the customer in control of their own interaction. So Sreekumar, let's move on to our next secret. What can you tell us about the supply chain and its role in helping us deliver a great omnichannel experience?
Absolutely, Chris. Supply chain can undoubtedly be considered the physical twin of an omnichannel digital platform. Every customer action during the omnichannel journey triggers an intricate web of supply chain processes in the background. For these reasons, an omnichannel experience can only be as strong as the supply chain supporting it. Like technology adoption, the choice of required supply chain capabilities is unique for every organization. For that reason, the capabilities being described here are only intended to demonstrate how supply chain enriches the omnichannel journey. A decentralized distribution offers choice and speed to omnichannel execution. Achieving optimal distribution not only enhances the customer experience, it also helps the organization to drive the inventory management and transportation costs down. Next, a dynamic pricing strategy on the supplier and customer ends of the spectrum allows omnichannel to respond quickly to trends in the market. The short cycles in retail and fashion industries mandate advanced scheduling and pricing capabilities. Advanced logistics and fulfillment capabilities in supply chain ensures that the right product is made available to the customer at the right time. Efficient forward and reverse logistics processes reduce the overhead per customer and in turn helps reduce the price for the customer. Adoption of robotics and other advanced warehouse management tools have enabled omnichannel retailers to deliver quickly, maintain a low inventory, and replenish effectively. Smart warehousing capabilities make experiences like same-day or even same-hour delivery a reality. Lean and just-in-time processes reduce waste and allows omnichannel to react quickly to changes on the demand and supply flows. Lean processes also lower the inventory and different costs associated with it. Integrated business planning enables the organization to utilize the data points generated from different omnichannel touchpoints to sense the demand accurately, plan the supply, and manage the fulfillment and replenishment effectively. The capability of supply chain to provide real-time visibility of inventory across retail stores, distribution centers, and even in transit allows omnichannel to direct the customers to alternate locations and to offer different delivery options effectively. So Chris, let's go to the next secret. How is understanding the customer in omnichannel context different from a traditional retail strategy?
Sure. I think one of the keys to a great omnichannel experience is taking the customer's view of how they interact with us as a retailer. As we look at the structure of a retailer's business, there's the store operations team, the e-com team, marketing team, and customer service teams. For example, these teams are all likely using different systems to serve the customer. The exercise here is to understand who our target customer is. What are their interests and needs relative to our products and services? Many retailers we work with will create personas for their target customers. They will fully attribute the personas to define who they are and how they're going to interact with us. Next, we would map the customer's lifetime interaction journey with us for each persona. This involves walking through all the stages from awareness, discovery, research, trust, trial, purchase, and after the sale service, and then understanding both the content and mode of access for each step in the journey. What information is expected, and how is the customer going to access that information? Is it on the website, at an in-store kiosk, mobile device, or speaking with a sales associate? The next step would be to prioritize and sequence those steps in terms of where we want to start our focus. Curating the content and identifying the delivery mode, and determining what investments are going to be required at each step to provide this interaction seamlessly. So Sreekumar, for our next secret, what additional steps can we take to map out our journey further?
Sure, Chris. One of the greatest challenges of omnichannel adoption lies in the consolidation of disjoint processes along with underlying applications and databases. Since many of these channels have evolved with autonomy over some or in some cases all of their processes, the end-to-end process refinement is necessary to align different groups towards a common goal. Even the supporting IT frameworks reflect the same sort of siloed approach, making it difficult to have an end-to-end view of the solutions that can support the unified process model. Hence, creating an enterprise architecture function to own the end-to-end process and technology models would be highly beneficial. This function can also govern the technology investments while progressing towards the target state. The processes also need to be unified at supplier and customer relationship management level. In a multi-channel organization, redundancies and ambiguity exist across channels for the same process. For instance, it is possible that two channels have separate contracts with the same vendor or supplier. The information flows are also duplicated since the channels maintain separate partner and transaction records. Unifying the pipelines not only give the organization economies of scale, but also a central view of the product, information, and financial flows. In a traditional multi-channel organization, channels have independent marketing strategies and even sales revenue targets. Sales closed in other channels have little to no impact on their own goals. In such a situation, there is really no incentive for instance, a retail store to promote the e-commerce and vice versa. But in omnichannel strategy, the organization encourages the customers to use the services of a retail store to familiarize with the product, but gives incentive to buy the same product using a mobile app. In this case, the retail store's incentives are not just tied to the direct revenue, but also to the revenue from customers who have availed their services to make an informed decision. The next part of the same strategy is achieving an organization alignment to progress in devising an omnichannel strategy. Leadership buy-in is a crucial success factor for effective adoption of omnichannel. The holistic nature of omnichannel transformation mandates commitment from almost every department in the organization. Depending on the scale of adoption, this transformation can have profound impact on the organization's culture and values. As organizations consider transformational programs, omnichannel can be one of the most pervasive due to the scope of business areas impacted. It must be championed at the most senior levels, otherwise the progress will easily be stalled due to peer-level conflicts. Omnichannel adoption could heavily influence the organization's long-term strategy and business architecture. Commitment from the executive teams would go a long way in helping the entire organization adhere to the transformation plan. The executive teams could also help in revamping the value proposition and the KPIs to reflect real progress. Delivery is the engine that enables organization to steer towards its goals through systematic and timely improvements. Being responsible and agile is no longer just an option, but a necessity to effectively support an omnichannel strategy. Even though exploring ways to advance the organization's reach and grasp is essential, it is equally important to maintain the integrity of the core services and information. The above groups can develop and provide the capabilities to enable omnichannel strategy, but the true adoption happens at the operations layer. Effective omnichannel experience may require business units to revamp the metrics based on which they operate. Necessary measures also need to be taken to prevent sub-optimization and competing interests between sales channels within the organization.
Thanks, Sreekumar. So for our next secret, can you help us with some of the recent technologies that are out there and how they can help us on our journey?
Sure, Chris. Considering the pace at which the modern technologies are developed and adopted, if an organization is not disrupting the market, it is very much possible that they are being disrupted by someone else. Evaluating and investing in emerging technologies has become a common practice even among organizations whose core competency is not digital product development. The technologies and frameworks being discussed here are not meant to be prescriptive. Every organization must decide for itself which technologies are best suited to tackle their challenges and to chase the goals they seek. Understanding the customer, as you have explained earlier, is a key to the omnichannel success. And social media marketing and analytics technologies aid immensely in such efforts. Advertising campaigns are no longer delivered to masses. They are targeted for individuals based on specific attributes and history. Omnichannel experience is about being constantly available to customers on varying channels and devices. This exerts severe pressure on the organization's system capabilities to react instantly to customer requests. Migration of workloads to the cloud offers valuable advantages over on-premise infrastructure and is well suited for omnichannel systems. Advances in cognitive computing offer capabilities to improve customer care and self-service flows. Similarly, IoT and RPA technologies have evolved well to make significant advances in warehouse and automation of the entire logistics. Blockchain-based solutions offer ways to establish provenance and trust among global supply chain partners. So Chris, can you please share with us our last secret, which is how to consolidate all of this into a plan for our organization to map out the journey?
Sure. Thanks, Sreekumar. So clearly, we're going to look to build this over time or make improvements over time. So that we see our customers as we work with them. We lay this out into a roadmap, and the roadmap has to deliver business outcomes that transform us over time to our end state. And the execution plans need to overcome the barriers that are out there through effective change management. We need to prioritize and sequence the capabilities and the technology to enable them. We want each step to have a business case and to measure the business results. From an organizational standpoint, we are best able to execute if we can create a single team that owns the customer journey from a strategy and vision standpoint. They would perform the customer journey mapping and define the handoffs of data and processes across the organization. They should also play a governance role in the planning and delivery of IT solutions to ensure the continued progress towards the end state. From a solution standpoint, I think the key here is to assess the longevity of our current platforms for POS, ERP, e-commerce, and marketing. These may be some of the first things to address in the roadmap in terms of creating that digital core we've been talking about. From a technology standpoint, cloud-based solutions can offer us faster speed to value, so these should be considered and weighted accordingly in our criteria. The roadmap should be digestible for the organization in that it should be broken down into agile deployments that can deliver incremental value to help fund the next steps of the roadmap. all building to a future state that enables the real-time access to the key information we need to deliver the best omnichannel experience possible for our customers. Well, Joe, that wraps up our 6 secrets for today's session. I'll hand it over to you for any questions from the audience.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sreekumar. You guys did an excellent job of summarizing some pretty important topics. While we're waiting for the folks on the line to ask questions, and to remind you, to ask a question, please go to the chat panel or the question menu system and submit your question there. We'll answer it as soon as they come in. You can also raise your hand on the telephone, and if you'd like to speak, we will open up the line and let you do it that way. While we're waiting for that, Chris, I wanted to go back to, I think the second or third secret was talking about understanding your customer and capturing or understanding information about the customer. You know, recently the European Union installed this GDPR, which I think for a lot of folks, that's just 4 letters, stands for General Data Protection Regulation. It went into effect in May. And it's a pretty strict regulation in data security. When you think about that and you say understanding your customer, how does capturing rich data impact the strategy and the omni-channel implementation for a company?
Sure, Joe. So while there certainly are growing regulatory constraints around how we manage customer data, it's always been a good idea as a retailer to be clear about how we're building trust and how we're building value for our customers. And of course, we're always looking to convert our casual customers into loyal customers where they're willing to share with us this key information, but we have to be able to turn that back around to them with transparency. We have to build up the value for them. What are they getting back for what they're giving? So that's key as well. And of course, you know, in terms of the regulatory issues, the information has to be tightly managed, and it has to be permission-based as well.
Yeah, I know with our organization, that's a huge issue right now because there are some pretty significant fines. Do you have any suggestions about how to ask for it or to track it, or any tools that you would recommend?
So, you know, SAP through its acquisition of Gigya has a solution and technology set that does help our customers manage this well.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's an example. I think understanding that there are some other tools out there, but Gigya is one for any SAP customer. Okay, thank you. Here's a question that came in through the line. I think it's probably for you, Sreekumar. You mentioned tapping into the supply chain, the value, unleashing the power of the supply chain. How would you suggest a retailer start? And specifically, this would be around either integrated business planning or real-time inventory tracking. Those were 2 of the benefits that you said could be unleashed with omnichannel.
Sure, Joe. So one of the supply chain capabilities that we have described about is the distributed inventory. And the point that you have mentioned about real-time information, in getting that inventory information is pretty significant if you look at getting the omni-channel or getting the organization to be omni-channel ready. One very good example to quote here is the story of Amazon. How Amazon has evolved its business model to reach its current status of being a pioneer in the industry. So Amazon's warehouses are moving closer and closer to the cities compared to traditional companies with a central warehouse in a remote location. The distributed warehousing strategy is one of the keys to Amazon's ability to expedite the customer delivery. And so once you have a distributed inventory, one key thing that kicks in is the need for having a real-time view of your inventory across all the, I mean, be it a distribution center or your hub and spoke stores or your retail stores, or there are different places that inventory could be residing. So having a single view of this entire inventory becomes really important. And there are some tools which could help you get that. And for instance, SAP's IBP Integrated Business Planning helps take all this information in, getting all the requirements and the receipts in, and then plan out your procurement and your supply so that you can meet the customer demand effectively.
And then what about, you mentioned, I guess, IBP, you mentioned SAP's got a product called IBP that is one of the tools that can help facilitate getting that information shared across the organization. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So the SAP IBP comes in is integrating all this information. So you have, in an omni-channel ecosystem, you have all these data points where you get the information in terms of what the demand is going to be, or what some of the indicators to show where the demand is. So what IBP does is it could consolidate all this information. It gets two sets of information, basically. I mean, any planning solution for that matter. It gets the demand, the requirement part of the equation, and then it tries to match that requirement to the receipt part, which is getting your purchase orders from your suppliers, getting the inventory that you hold, even the products that you manufacture. So tie the demand back to the fulfillment part of it. So that orchestration is handled by SAP's IBP very effectively.
Okay, thank you. We're still waiting for questions. Remember, you can go ahead and ask questions through the chat panel or by raising your hand. While we're waiting, you brought up something, Chris, I wanted to ask you to tap into. I think it was secret number one, which is anytime, anywhere, real-time access to data. And one of the key things that was important was being able to have global inventory availability. Sreekumar just talked about how in unleashing the value of the power of the supply chain, having that information is how you do it. Can you talk about when you say anytime, anywhere, real-time data access, how that works, or provide some more guidance relative to the topic?
Sure. I would say one of the trends we're seeing in-store across retail is somewhat moving away from the checkout at the front of the store and having more of a tablet-based mobile sales associate experience that's a little bit richer. Again, having access to that customer data, the prior purchases, any service history, and being able to know that customer as well as possible. In addition, offering suggested selling and things like that. So that seems to be a trend of a kind of just a transactional checkout versus a more of a rich sales experience that is out and about across the store's footprint and not just at the front of the store.
You use the terms transactional checkout or a rich customer experience. I think that makes sense, but real quickly, can you just illustrate what those two things mean?
Well, by just the normal checkout at the front of a store doesn't interact very directly with the customer's data or information. It's literally scanning products, totaling the sale and accepting payment, versus in a tablet-based point-of-sale solution that has access to all the customer information and access to the product catalog, access to product information, and again, even suggested selling that can be powered by artificial intelligence technology. The sales associate's able to interact better with the customer and provide them just a more meaningful shopping experience. And And the fact that it's mobile and checkout can be done on the tablet, for example, in a furniture store, the customer can buy the sofa while they're sitting on the sofa in the store.
Yep. I can see that, and I can even see the difference checking out at a dedicated, cash register, whether it's electronic or otherwise, versus walking up to a sales associate anywhere in the store and asking them to check you out, more conveniently and asking for location information. That would absolutely increase the value and have a better experience as a customer from my point of view. That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, there is one question here, and it says, of the technologies that were outlined, this was a question for Sreekumar, of the technologies to accelerate the journey, is there one in particular, or is there a use case that you would recommend to start with? That would be for you, Sreekumar.
Absolutely, Joe. One of the key areas where organizations have achieved significant gains due to technology adoption is in transition to cloud-based infrastructures. Microservice architectures and containerized deployments have made modern systems highly available and resilient. Cloud-based deployments have also made it possible for instance, for retailers to scale out the infrastructure with ease to handle peak seasonal loads with minimal investment and effort. Amazon.com is another, again, a perfect example of a retail organization investing on technology and advancing it so well that the company has evolved to be a technology pioneer with the AWS, and then becoming an enabler of omni-channel experiences for many other organizations.
Great. I think that's it. That was an excellent. It sounded like, Sreekumar, you're saying to start with the cloud deployment as the first technology to evaluate and then take it from there based on the situation.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Yep. No, that's all the questions that we have from the audience. I think we can move on.
Sure. So again, just to recap our secrets from our session today, anytime, anywhere access to data. We talked about customer and inventory visibility, unleashing the power of your supply chain, understanding your customer and how their interaction will be performed across what kind of access, having that unified process model that looks across the organization. We talked about some of the technologies to accelerate the journey and ultimately how to build that into a value-based roadmap. So that's all we had for today, Joe.
Wonderful. Any last comments or top of mind things you want to leave with the group, Chris?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Okay, good. Sreekumar?
Yes, Joe. So only other point, I think we have these secrets. So the one last thing we could recommend is to do it now. So any level of innovation you can plan as long as you want, but in order to reap the benefits, you need to start thinking about implementing them. So
if you're not doing it now, probably your competitors are, and you're perhaps falling behind. Yep, great suggestion.
Exactly.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you for your input. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for sharing today. This will conclude today's session of the Applexus Expert Series, The Secrets of Omnichannel Excellence. Thank you for attending, and please complete the survey that will be following this live session.
Thanks, Sreekumar.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Chris. And thanks, everyone, for attending.